What if our buildings could breathe, or react to the sun, or even heal themselves? It might sound like something straight out of science fiction, but it's actually the new reality of architecture. We're going to dive into a world where the walls around us are becoming this high-tech, living skin, and it might just be one of the most important keys we have to a sustainable future. So, to really get why this is such a big deal, you have to start with this truly staggering number. Our buildings are responsible for guzzling nearly 40% of the world's energy. Think about that. Most of that energy is just spent in this constant battle with the outdoors, heating our spaces when it's cold and cooling them down when it's hot. That is a massive drain on our resources and a huge driver of climate change. So, where's the real front line in this energy battle? You might think it's in giant power plants or these massive solar farms, but the answer is actually way, way closer to home. The front line is the very walls, windows, and roofs of the buildings that we live and work in every single day. And that brings us to the unsung hero of this entire story, the building envelope. Now, that's just a fancy term for the skin of a building, the physical barrier between the inside and the outside. It's what keeps the rain out, sure, but its role is evolving into something so much more important than just basic protection. This is where we see this huge shift in thinking. We are moving away from seeing buildings as just these passive, static shelters and into a whole new era where they're active, they're intelligent, and they're responsive. We are literally going from bricks to smart skins. So what's the big difference here? Well, think about it this way. Traditional building envelopes are static. They're built with basic stuff like brick and concrete, and they pretty much just sit there and take a beating from the elements. Smart envelopes, on the other hand, are dynamic. They use these incredible advanced materials to actively respond to the environment, optimizing energy use in real time. So how on earth do they do that? Well, let's open up the toolbox and take a look at some of the amazing materials that are basically giving our buildings superpowers. First up, materials that can react and even heal themselves. Okay, so what you're seeing here is something called electrochromic glass, or just smart glass. Right now, it's in its clear state. So on a cold day, it lets all that beautiful sunlight pour in, warming the building naturally, which means you need less heating. But this is where it gets really cool. Because here's the magic. With just a tiny little bit of electrical voltage, and I mean tiny, the glass can instantly tint itself. This tinted state blocks all that intense solar heat and glare on a hot summer day, which dramatically cuts down on how much energy you need for air conditioning. And the impact of this is just huge. We're not talking about a small improvement here. Studies show that this smart glazing can slash the energy needed for cooling by up to 40% compared to regular old windows. That is a massive energy saving, and that's just from the windows. All right, dynamic glass is one thing, but what if we could take this idea a step further? What if the actual structure of our buildings could repair itself when it gets damaged? Well, it's possible with self-healing concrete. The way it works is incredible. When a tiny little crack forms, it breaks open these microscopic capsules that are embedded in the concrete. These capsules release a healing agent that just flows into the crack and hardens, fixing the damage all by itself. This makes the building last way longer and cuts down on all those costly carbon-intensive repairs. It's like giving the building its very own immune system. But innovation isn't always about more electronics and complex chemistry. Sometimes the most advanced solutions are right there in front of us, in nature and in the materials we usually just throw away. And that brings us to this revolution that's both sustainable and recycled. This is where things get really interesting. Instead of energy-intensive synthetics, imagine wrapping our buildings in materials that are already sustainable. Take sheep's wool. It's naturally fire-resistant and it manages moisture. Or how about cellulose, which is basically just made from recycled paper? The idea here is simple. Use materials that are low-carbon, renewable, or recycled. Materials that work with nature, not against it. And this all ties into a much bigger idea, the circular economy. The goal is to finally move past our old take, make, waste way of doing things. Instead, we can design buildings from day one so that at the end of their life, the materials can be recovered and reused for something new, creating this closed loop that just dramatically reduces waste. Okay, so let's zoom back out. We've seen some of these amazing individual pieces of tech, but what happens when you start putting them all together? What's the real-world impact of these smarter buildings on our planet?
Well, this isn't just theory. This is happening right now. The Media ICT building in Barcelona, for example, uses a smart facade that's made of these inflatable cushions that regulate sunlight. That dynamic system has led to energy savings of around 20% compared to a normal building.
Or get this, the incredible Al-Bar Towers in Abu Dhabi. Their facade has this whole system of triangular panels that literally open and close in response to the sun, just like a flower. This dynamic shading system reduces the heat from the sun by a staggering 50%.
And what's really cool is that the benefits go way beyond just a single building. By using things like reflective materials and green roofs, these smart envelopes can actually help cool down entire urban areas. This helps fight back against something called the urban heat island effect, which is what makes big cities so much hotter than the areas around them.
This quote right here really just sums it all up perfectly. The positive ripple effects from these technologies are immense. You get environmental benefits like lower emissions, social benefits like healthier places to live, and economic benefits from all the energy savings. And it doesn't just impact one building, but entire cities and really the planet. So the potential is just enormous. But what does the path forward actually look like? How do we get from here to making this the new standard and not just the cool exception? Of course, let's be realistic, there are some hurdles. The initial costs can be high, the technology can seem complex, and our building codes and regulations definitely need to catch up. And really, we just need to get the word out and raise awareness about the incredible long-term value that these systems provide. But here's the thing, all of these challenges are solvable. The technology already exists, and it's getting better and cheaper every single day. We are right on the cusp of a revolution where our buildings are no longer just these static, dumb objects. They're becoming living, breathing partners in creating a sustainable world. And it really makes you wonder, if our buildings are becoming alive today, what's next?